Gopi Janara Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll hear from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, and today text 52, wrapping up the chapter. Next, King Prithu meets with the four Kumaras. Namo Viruddha Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase Yo Brahma Kshatrama Vibhartidam Swatejasa Namo Viruddha Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase Yo Brahma Kshatrama Vibhartidam Swatejasa Namo Viruddha Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase Yo Brahma Kshatrama Vibhartidam Swatejasa. Others, please.
Namo Viruddha Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase Yo Brahma Kshatrama Vishya Vibhartidam Swatejasa Namo Viruddha Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase Brahma Kshatrama Vishya Vibhartidam Swatejasa
Namo Viruddha Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase
Purushaya Mahiyase
Yo Brahma Sattramavishya Vidhartitam Swatejasa
Vivartitam Swatejasa Namo Vividya Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase
Purushaya
Mahiyase Yo Brahma Kshatriyamavishya Vivartitam Swatejasa Namo Vividya Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase Yo Brahma Kshatriyamavishya Vivartitam Swatejasa.
Any Vaishnavis? Oh. Oh, okay.
Namo Vividya Sattvaya
Namo Vividya Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase
Yo Brahma Satyam Avishya
Vivartitam Swatejasa
Namo Vividya Sattvaya
Namo Vividya Sattvaya Purushaya Mahiyase
Yo Brahma Satyam Avishya
Yo Brahma Kshatriyamavishya Vivartitam Swatejasa.
Thank you. Word to word. Nama, all obeisances. Vivridha, highly elevated. Sattvaya, unto the existence. Purushaya, unto the person. Mahiyase, unto one who is so glorified. Ya, who, Brahma, Brahminical culture, Kshatram, administrative duty, Avishya, entering, Bibharti, maintaining, Idam, this, Swatejasa, by his own prowess. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world. Okay, you're supposed to do what I say. And thus you're maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and introducing everyone, and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. Responsibly, please. Maybe. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you're maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Without the spread of Brahminical culture and without proper protection from the government, no social standard can be maintained properly. This is admitted in this verse by the citizens of Maharaj Prithu, who could maintain the wonderful situation of his government due to his situation in pure goodness. The word Vivridhasatvaya is significant. In the material world, there are three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. One has to be raised from the platform of ignorance to the platform of goodness by devotional service. There's no other means for elevating one from the lowest stage of life to the highest stage, but the execution of devotional service. As advised in the previous chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, one can raise himself from the lowest position to the highest simply by associating with devotees and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly from their mouths. Srinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Pradyantasto Hipadrani Vitunoti Suhatsitam. When one engages in devotional service in the first stages of hearing and chanting, the Lord who is in everyone's heart helps the devotee in cleansing his heart. In the gradual cleansing process, one is relieved of the influence of passion and ignorance and is situated on the platform of goodness. The result of association with the qualities of passion and ignorance is that one becomes lusty and greedy. But when one is elevated to the platform of goodness, he is satisfied in any condition of life and is without lust and greed. This mentality indicates one's situation on the platform of goodness. One who has transcended this goodness, one has to transcend this goodness and raise himself to the pure goodness called Vivridhasattva, or the advanced stage of goodness. In the advanced stage of goodness, one can become Krishna conscious. Therefore, Maharaj Prithu is addressed here as Vivridhasattva, or one who is situated in the transcendental position. But Maharaj Prithu, although situated in the transcendental position of a pure devotee, came down to the position of Brahmana and Kshatriya for the benefit of human society, and thus gave protection to the entire world by his personal prowess. Although he was a king, a Kshatriya, because he was a Vaishnava, he was also a Brahmana. As a Brahmana, he could give proper instruction to the citizens, and as a Kshatriya, he could rightly give protection to all of them. Thus, the citizens of Maharaj Prithu were protected in all respects by the perfect king. Thus, in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 21st chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Instructions by Maharaj Prithu. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Mukhaṁ Karoti Vachalam Pangrum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Gadati Svapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatide Shatarini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Namo Viridhasatvaya Purushaya Mahise Yo Brahma Kshatramavis Avishya Vibhartidam Svatejasa. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You're glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. So there are a couple of things, three main things that Srila Prabhupada calls our attention to in his commentaries purport on this verse. One is King Prithu is situated, the citizens recognize that King Prithu is situated in not just the mode of goodness, because even though the mode of goodness is superior to passion and ignorance, goodness is enlightening, but it's still entangling in a different way from passion and ignorance. Ignorance conditions us to misery, passion conditions us to what the Buddhists call grasping, greed, but goodness conditions us to happiness. And by happiness, we don't. I think I might have made this point here before. I sometimes make this point. By happiness, we're not talking about pleasure. We're talking about well-being. Actually, I probably brought this up the other day when I gave class, because well-being was directly addressed by the citizens in that verse. So here we see that because King Prithu is situated on the platform of, as this verse puts it, Vibhuddha Sattva, or as we hear it elsewhere, Vishuddha Sattva, purified goodness. In other words, the transcendental platform. Then he can actually provide for everyone's well-being. That's a really important thing. Now, the next thing is that we are meant in the human form of life to behave in a way that we become elevated from the modes of passion and ignorance to the mode of goodness, and ultimately to the mode of Vishuddha Sattva ourselves. And Srila Prabhupada points out in his purport that regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from devotees is the best way to do that. I want to come back to that. There's a third point that I saw. And Srila Prabhupada draws this directly from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this verse, is that King Prithu, and he says, although he was situated in the transcendental position of a pure devotee, he came down to the position of a Brahmana and a Kshatriya for the benefit of human society. And therefore, through his own strength, through his own prowess, he was able to give protection to everyone. So we see at the beginning of his Leela, he was created, as I think I suggested the other day, kind of by a kind of selective cloning of King Vena. Whatever little whatever little goodness there might have been in King Vena, they extracted that and used that to create King Prithu's body. So, and then, when he saw the situation, the dire situation the entire earth was in, because of the extreme exploitative nature of King Vena, he took action. Now, this is a leader. This is the Kshatriya's business. This is a real leader. A real leader is going to be looking out for everyone under their charge. One of the things that I hear emphasized sometimes when we talk about leadership in the society of devotees is devotee care. It's a really hard thing to actually do. Sometimes at our temple in Honolulu, we'll hear that right there on the island of Oahu, Srila Prabhupada wrote a list of our priorities, the order in which we should attend to the important aspects of our life. Number one, anybody guess? Health. Number one, health. Number two, chanting. Number three, service, and number four was study. So we give it that nod, we pay it that lip service every once in a while, but we have a hard time, or especially since we have a really lean crew there, we have a hard time organizing the temple in a way that the devotees can actually take care of themselves, get proper sleep, regulated recreation, and eat properly. We eat okay there because we have a restaurant too. I unfortunately haven't. Actually, I did lose some weight a couple of years ago, significantly, enough that everyone commented on it and asked me what I was doing. I didn't know, but I found it again, unfortunately. So this is kind of a problem. So Prithu saw this dire situation of the earth, and he immediately took drastic action to the point of threatening the personality of the earth herself in order to provide for all those under his charge. Nowadays, we see existential threats to the earth, or at least it appears that way. They tell us that if there's just this tiny increment of further global warming, because the oceans act as kind of a heat sink, and they absorb that. Well, that means more drastic weather. That means hotter summers, colder winters, unless I guess you're in Denver. I chickened out from going to Denver on this trip because I'm thinking, oh, winter, I've been there. And everybody said, it's 63 in Denver. I'm like, what? Still winter. There are no climate phenomena to pay attention to, right? Just a couple of atmospheric rivers on the West Coast in a couple of weeks. And what did we, and I mentioned we had this hurricane back in August in south of Hawaii. And we had sustained wind for 5 days straight, sustained winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour with gusts of up to 80. And it was in the middle of those winds that wildfire destroyed most of the town of Lahaina on the west side of Maui, which devastated the island in a number of ways, environmentally, economically, personally. There was great loss of life, about 100 deaths. So many people lost everything. Of course, this is a common phenomenon if you live in California. Every fall, right? You see on the TV, you see the people going through the ashes of what had been their home, and all their stuff was lost. So so nothing to see here, right? It's not a problem. And so many of our leaders seem to be diddling instead, making jokes about it. They get snow in January, and some congressman will come in and with a snowball and, where's your global warming? Well, global warming is actually a misnomer. It's actually increasingly extreme weather. And so this winter, it was also very cold and very snowy in a lot of places. So King Prithu didn't mess around like this. He took this drastic action for the benefit of all beings. And so Srila Prabhupada says, that he came down to that position of both Brahmana and Kshatriya for the benefit of society. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, entering into the Brahmana caste, the Lord supports the Kshatriyas. Entering into the Kshatriyas, the Lord supports the Brahmanas. And entering into both, the Lord supports the universe. So this This is a really powerful thing. And only by having been invested with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can someone do that. So if we want the power to do that, to create that kind of benefit for not just all of society, but for all the living entities, just as Srila Prabhupada says in his preface to the Bhagavad Gita, that the Srimad Bhagavatam is here to benefit all of human society. And he says, nay, the entire energy of the living beings. He makes this point. So we see here in these chapters, in this part of Srimad Bhagavatam, what real leadership means. It's what some folks refer to as servant leadership. And that's something that's very rare to find in any of our governments anywhere in the world. And it's something that many devotees are striving to create among the leadership of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, because it's meant for something quite amazing. And it's specifically for promoting the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada says that we can raise ourselves from the lowest position to the highest simply by associating with devotees and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam regularly from their mouths. So he cites this verse from the second chapter of the Bhagavatam. This is a really important and interesting section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's 7 verses, I guess, in the second chapter that actually trace out, they illustrate, in a sense, the 9 stages of progressive bhakti that Srila Rupa Goswami writes about in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and Prema. So we have Shraddha, some initial faith, Adau Shraddha, some initial faith. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada described that as just kind of enough faith to stop and listen. Or Prabhupada, on a couple of occasions, he said that someone might think, oh, well, these people are actually nice. That's that initial Shraddha. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary on one of these verses, he suggests 14 stages of bhakti, with a couple of stages preceding Shraddha, which are kind of a description of Sukriti, the kind of bhakti Sukriti, Agyata Sukriti, and then kind of more aware, more overtly aware Sukriti, good behavior that helps us become receptive to the association of devotees when we encounter it. So that's Shraddha, and then Sadhu Sangha, deliberately associating with devotees, and then Bhajana Kriya, systematically engaging in the processes of progressive devotional service under the guidance of a spiritual master. So that includes accepting initiation and accepting instructions from the spiritual master, and then Anartha Nivritti, then the beginning of clearing. And that Bhajana Kriya has 2 stages, Anishita and Nishita, unsteady and steady practice. And then there's a further stage of clearing even deeper false values, anarthas. And once those become significantly cleared, then we become steady in our practice. And when that steadiness takes place, when that steadiness becomes the hallmark of our life, then we eventually gain ruchi, or a taste for serving the Lord. And then that grows into asakti, attachment directly for the Lord himself, not just for service, but really actually becoming attached to the Lord ourselves. And those stages constitute sadhana bhakti, bhakti in practice. And then there's the stage of bhava. These things grow. These stages, we move through these stages, and the devotional creeper, that little tiny seed that's been planted by the association of devotees, it grows, and then it buds. There's a little bud that forms, and that is bhava, or ecstatic love for the Supreme Lord. And when that bud fully opens, then that's prema, and then there's a fruit. So it's something that continues to grow. And then, of course, that fruit drops and there's more seeds. And this is our business. Our business is to actually keep this kind of transcendental perpetual motion machine going by spreading the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, by spreading the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is, a really wonderful verse. Srila Prabhupada's full translation for this verse, where we find it in the second chapter, it says, Sri Krishna, the Supreme Person, the Personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. And the next verse is even, it kind of brings us a little further along. And Srila Prabhupada alludes to it in his purport, in today's purport. And that's Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. By regularly hearing the Bhagavatam, we now have regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam. But if you look at the Delhi Bhagavatam, by regularly hearing Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee. So this is a really important thing to note. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur points out in Chaitanya Bhagavat that this Bhagavat Seva means either serving Srimad Bhagavatam itself by hearing, or chanting it, transmitting it, sharing it with others, or by serving those whose lives have become the Bhagavatam. By doing so, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who's praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So this is a really important thing to note. And this is really the kind of protection that we want to give everyone, because this is something that's substantial. This is something that's permanent, a kind of protection that's actually eternal and addresses the needs of the self, the actual self, the Atma. The Atma as consciousness, the Jiva, not Atma as body or mind or intellect, because that has these different levels. That word has these different levels of meaning. Means self as you conceive of it. And the way Krishna teaches us to conceive of the self in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is as the eternal, indestructible self, the Jiva, which shares the qualities, many of the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and shares its very nature as Satchidananda Vigraha, as a form that's eternally existing, capable of all kinds of cognition, awareness, and capable of bliss. So this business of spreading Srimad Bhagavatam, what did Srila Prabhupada come with in 1965? He worked for years, and we will hear in the Lilamrita. I'm not sure how far we'll get, but we will hear in the Lilamrita just what a struggle it was for Srila Prabhupada to publish his those first three editions of the first canto, those first three volumes of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam with his commentary, which draws especially on Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary, but also the commentary of other acharyas, especially in the 10th canto. In the 10th canto, we see commentaries from, so many acharyas. Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Sridhar Swami, the ancient commentator on the Bhagavatam, and many, many others. So Srila Prabhupada drew on all these commentaries, writing his Bhaktivedanta purports, as well as his own experience as a practitioner and his experience of the contemporary world, which broadened considerably once he got out of Vrindavan and actually came to the United States and then traveled around the world and just kind of saw how things were going. We see how his purports kind of evolve over the years in that way. So this is actually meant, to shed light on the darkness of this Kali Yuga. It's meant to bring about a revolution in the hearts of those of us, those unfortunate denizens of Kali Yuga, who are kind of trapped in this age of discord, hypocrisy, strife, competition, undue competition. So this is actually a great thing that Srila Prabhupada did. He gave his life in his old age, and I can tell you, it would, when you're this age, it'd be a lot easier in some ways to just go fishing, right? Just get that RV and spend your children's inheritance or something, you see those bumper stickers on the especially the expensive, like a Mercedes RV or something like that. We're spending our children's inheritance, or the other bumper sticker, gone fishing or something like that. But to actually carry out this work, and especially you see the intensity with which Srila Prabhupada did it. He braved 2 heart attacks on the Jaladut. First of all, there was just convincing Sumati Morarji to give him passage on the Leakin, well, it wasn't exactly the Leakin Lena, but it was a freighter. It wasn't like a luxury cruise ship or anything. He talked her into giving him free passage to America, so she put him in the guest cabin of one of her freighters. There were rough seas along the way. Prabhupada complained about seasickness. Anybody here get motion sickness? It's awful. I love the ocean. I'm an ocean person, but I get seasick. And so back in the 80s, the temple had a 52-foot teak ketch sailboat with 2 masts. And if we went out onto the open ocean, I was on the deck, sick as a dog. And as soon as we dropped anchor, I would roll over the side into the ocean, and only there could I get some relief. Which is it's a really rough thing to have to experience when you actually really love the ocean, as I do. But so just the seasickness alone, and then he had 2 heart attacks. And then he had a dream where Krishna himself was actually going to personally ensuring the safety of the boat. And then, he had no money when he got to New York City. And as he said, when he got off the ship in New York Harbor, he didn't know whether to go right or left. And it was only because there was a character with a sign, that said Swami Bhaktivedanta, that That's Allen. That's doing my best Allen Ginsberg impression. That Srila Prabhupada knew that this was his ride. That this would convey him to a bus that would take him to Butler, Pennsylvania, and then we know how the story progressed. Oh, another heart attack in 1967, where he was nursed back to health by his loving disciples, especially Gaur Sundar and Govindadasi, to whom he felt grateful for the rest of his life, and struggled putting up with all of our shenanigans and our misunderstandings and guiding us and just work. And as one of my friends wrote me the other day, Srila Prabhupada made it look effortless. Shrutikirtis often observed that wherever Srila Prabhupada traveled, he was just kind of automatically on the whatever time they were on there. He never seemed to experience jet lag. It would just like bang, he's right into the schedule there. Even if he's flown a third halfway around the world, he would just get right into, if it was 8 o'clock there, okay, then it's time, it's time to let the devotees receive him and then go have prasad. And I remember noting this when I was turning 69 and 70 some years ago. I was in Poland on a retreat on my 69th birthday, also on my 70th birthday. I was in the same situation. 69th birthday, I didn't think when I woke up, I'm 69 today, it's my birthday. I didn't really remember it until I was in the shower. And then I had a moment of panic and I just thought, oh my God, I'm 60. And I looked and I thought, where did this pudgy old man's body come from? I'm a long distance runner and surfer, for goodness sake, For about a minute and a half, my mind just kind of like started spinning. And then I just thought, wait, you're still a year younger than Srila Prabhupada was when he got on that boat to come and retrieve you. So snap out of it and get to work. So it's not always, especially, when you get this old, it's not always easy and it's not always fun. But frankly, there's nothing more rewarding. There is nothing more rewarding than immersing ourselves in Srimad Bhagavatam and trying to share whatever shraddha, whatever bhakti we might have gotten from the association of devotees with others. Whether it's with other devotees or with non-devotees. And this is our life. Krishna says this himself. I mentioned this verse last, I kind of started with this verse last night. The 9th verse of the 10th chapter of the Gita, Matchita Madgata Prana, Bodhayanta Parasparam, Katayantas Chamam Nityam Tushyanticha, Ramanticha. This is the devotee's satisfaction. Tushyanticha. This is their pleasure, their great pleasure. Ramanticha. And what is that? Matchita Madgata Prana Bodhaya. Enlightening one another and talking about Krishna, the glory, the wonder of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. How wonderful is it? Well, here's how wonderful the gopis themselves say it is. This is the 9th verse of the 31st chapter of the 10th canto of the Gopi Gita. This is a wonderful chapter. The context is gopis have met Krishna for the rasa dance, and then all of a sudden he disappears with one gopi, and all of a sudden the two sets of footprints become one set of very deep footprints. Oh, so he must be carrying her. They're following the footprints, and all of a sudden they find her, also dumped by Krishna. And so they get together on the bank of the river and they start singing Krishna's glories or complaining, sometimes with the same words, especially in this verse. So the gopis say, Tavagatamritam tapta jivanam kavibiritam shravanam kalmasapaham Shravana Mangalam Srimad Bhuvi Grananti Ye Bhuri Dajana. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities, Tavakatamrita, the nectar of what you say or what people say about you. These are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations, transmitted by learned sages, eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. And how wonderful is this verse that even though Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu repeatedly declined to meet with King Prataparudra, who was a pure devotee, just because he was externally, he was a Kshatriya. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was able to advise Prataparudra, well, you can get in if you just give up your king costume. Dress like a Vaishnava. There are some devotees I know whom I respect and love, who will say there's no such thing as Vaishnava dress. But you'll see two places, at least in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where that phrase Vaishnava Vesha comes up. Sanatana Goswami and King Prataparudra. And so he gets in, and as Mahaprabhu, I think he says, as he's being massaged, King Prataparudra starts chanting this chapter. And Lord Chaitanya says, oh my God. And he gets up and he doesn't even know who the guy is. He says, you're my life. You're giving me life. And he embraces him. And when he chants this verse, Lord Chaitanya just kind of moves. The nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this world. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. And then the Bhagavatam itself, in the last chapter, which is kind of a Bhagavat Mahatmya, glorification of its self. There's one verse that's just so wonderful. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalayam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam Yasmin Paramahamsyam Ekam Amalam Jnanam Paragiyate Tatra Jnana Viraga Bhakti Sahitam Naishkarmyam Aviskritam Tatrinvam Supatan Vicharana Paro Bhaktya Vimuchain Naraha. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. It's most dear to the Vaishnavas because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsas. This is the answer to Vyasadev's dilemma in the first canto, right? Vyasadeva is having a nervous breakdown, an existential crisis, because even though he's done all this work, creating, compiling and organizing all these scriptures for the upliftment of humankind, still he's feeling unfulfilled. So this is the answer. Because it describes the pure and supreme knowledge of the Paramahamsas. This Bhagavatam reveals the means for becoming free from all material work, together with the processes of transcendental knowledge, renunciation, and devotion. Anyone who seriously tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, who properly hears and chants it with devotion, becomes completely liberated. In other words, they attain Bhakti-ruttama, as Rupa Goswami describes it in the 11th verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, pure devotional service. So this is Srila Prabhupada's own example of leadership. This is how to protect the entire human society, including the brahmanas and the cows, as we saw a couple of verses back, in his purport a couple of verses back. This is our legacy. This is his gift to us, the work of sharing this with others, which is the most rewarding thing we can do. And his gift to all of humankind, actually to all the living entities of the world. Okay, I'll stop here. It's really late. Quick Anything anyone else has to contribute? Quick comments? Lalita?
I just had a question in the purport. This is a question I've had for a while, but in the purport there, you hear about being satisfied in any condition of life, and so I always wonder how exactly does that parse out. I mean, should I be satisfied that I'm going to sit here and starve to death? Should I be satisfied in an abusive situation?
Oh boy.
If there's,
I think
if
I
I-
said quick questions.
and if I feel like maybe I could be more effective at doing service, in a different sphere, should I be satisfied with doing service that I don't think I'm as effective at?
Yeah. Surrendering to an abusive situation, that's not included. Starving, not if there's service to do. Srila Prabhupada would sometimes talk about Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, who toward the end rarely slept, lived on like that much buttermilk. Buttermilk is what happens after you churn the butter away, right? But he would also admonish us that if living like that makes it difficult to do your service, you're not allowed to do that. So yeah, we need to maintain our health. It's not necessarily helpful to become so distracted by that. I mean, we see sometimes people, sometimes we see devotees, they'll spend a lot of their time going to the scalar place and then to the acupuncturist and then to the massage therapist and then back to another acupuncturist for hot stone massage and cupping and then they have to go home and soak in a hot Epsom salt tub for 3 hours or something like that, just to kind of get through the day. But when have they had an opportunity to do service? When have they had an opportunity to think beyond their body? But whatever we need to maintain our health, and it's going to be different for everybody, we need to do that, and we need to make reasonable arrangements for our safety. But over endeavor is not recommended. So yeah, and so being satisfied, it means not unnecessarily striving. That kind of undue competition that Srila Prabhupada refers to in his purport to the second verse of the Bhagavatam. But instead, make whatever arrangements we need to make in order to, we see even Srila Prabhupada as a sannyasi living in Vrindavan. He made an arrangement for some quarters, first at Vangshi Gopalaji temple and then at Radha Damodar. He it was a few rupees, 25 rupees a month or something like that. He whatever alms he got in the course of the month, he would make sure he set aside those 25 rupees for the Radha Damodar Goswamis. Even if he lived very simply, like khichdi and chapati or something like that, he would make those arrangements. But his real struggle was to get paper for printing, because there was, it was rationed, and to convince the guy who ran the printing press to go ahead and print a whole bunch of volumes, and you will get paid. Don't worry, I'm good for it. And then to try to share that with other people, and to the extent of bringing a few cases with him on the Jaladuta. So we make whatever arrangements are necessary to facilitate our service, we're satisfied with that. If we don't get the prestige we think we deserve, if we don't get the comfort we think we deserve, We don't get all bent out of shape about that. That we tolerate. Is that okay? That's a start.
Yeah.
Anything else? Because the hook is coming. I feel it. There's a breeze. Okay, thank you so much for your patience and your indulgence. Grantaraja Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go. Ancha